Hey everyone, my name is Dillon Gonzalez. I'm the editorial director for GeekVibesNation.com and also a co-host of the Home Dance Film Festival podcast. And welcome to a brand new episode of No Streaming Required, your weekly deep dive into all the latest and greatest in the world of physical media. And we have a great episode for you this week. We have titles from the Criterion Collection, an epic box set from Severin. We have classic animation. We have a little bit of something for everyone, and I'm really excited to get into it. So I'm just going to dive right into one of my most anticipated. This is the Criterion Collection's release of the limited series The Underground Railroad from director Barry Jenkins, who was the director of the Oscar-winning Moonlight, and this is his 2021 limited series. This is a 4-disc set containing all 10 episodes of the series, and I'll get into exactly what all that entails in just a second, but we have a fold-out booklet here, which has a really great essay that unfurls, and it's on both sides here, so it's a pretty significant essay, as well as a kind of like a little graphic novel here called Genesis. This was basically would have functioned as an 11th episode that they didn't get to film, which Barry Jenkins talks about here, that kind of actually talks about the building of the Underground Railroad. So that's a cool little addition. The only thing I want to comment on about this packaging is it's hard to get all of this in here just like gently and correctly to close easily. So if you see me fumbling with it, just pray for me, because hopefully I'll get it one of these days. But the Underground Railroad, it is a 2021 series. It was Emmy nominated. It should have been Emmy winning in my opinion, but I think a lot of people were scared about what this show might be. And I can understand that, because I myself, back in 2021, whenever it first aired, I watched the first episode, and while it ended on a really interesting note, I just kind of, it was one of those series that kind of like slipped by me, and it took until this release for me to get through all the rest of the episodes. But I'm really glad I did, because the first episode of the Underground Railroad, it does really function in that kind of normal kind of slave epic tale where there are it's like a plantation and everything's kind of developing, and there are some slaves that want to run away, and you see a lot of like graphic lynching, and it's filmed beautifully by Barry Jenkins, but it's just one of those tales where you're like, okay, I've seen this type of stuff before. But, and this isn't a spoiler, but at the very end of the episode, you get our characters fleeing, and they come upon a literal Underground Railroad, which really injects this whole narrative. It kind of turns it on its head and really injects it with a bit of like magical realism. And kind of what Jenkins goes on to do from here is really use this kind of like I said, magical realism to explore all these different stories on this now literal Underground Railroad, as our characters are trying to flee the South and find somewhere that they can safely live. And this is all through the eyes of the lead character Cora, played by Tosin Bedu, who I really love in The Woman King. If you haven't watched that movie, definitely do that. I believe it's streaming on Netflix, but I would recommend the 4K. It's a really great disc from Sony. But this is 10 episodes, and just through every episode you get a little bit of something different, and not every episode does focus on Cora. There's some standalone episodes that are very impactful on their own, but Cora's story and like the stories of people she comes across and she escapes with, they're very powerful, and they kind of explore they kind of bring, Jenkins is really working from a place where he doesn't indulge in like black trauma. He just shows some of that, but it's also black beauty as well, and just kind of like the beauty and the horror of this time through the black experience. And so it's not coming from a white lens, which is really different from a lot of our like slave. And I know 12 Years a Slave was directed expertly by a black man. It was also an Oscar-winning movie, but this is a whole different beast, and just how this kind of develops, especially like in the second episode, whenever our characters get to a new town and they kind of think that everything is like normal. They're in South Carolina, and they think they've come across some white liberals who are really wanting to better them, but you realize there's a little bit of something sinister underneath, and kind of it gets into like issues of like eugenics and population control and all this kind of stuff. And how this is like, that's still early on in the season. I won't kind of reveal how the rest of the season develops, but just how each chapter reveals something different about different racial dynamics and the black experience during the time of the South during the slave times. And it's a beautiful series. It has music by Nicholas Britell. It's a very gorgeous cinematography, and I'll talk about some of that with the special features as well. But it's a really I can understand it's a tough show to start, and there's some really agonizing things that happen to our characters, but there's also a lot of beauty, and that's told with the utmost respect from Barry Jenkins, who's adapting this source material. It's a 2016 novel that he's adapted, and he's changed it around a little bit, but he definitely keeps a lot of it, and like the spirit of it definitely, but just kind of rearranges things and fleshes out different things, and it puts his own stamp on it because he's a master storyteller. And this is definitely one of those that develops very nicely over the 10 episodes. It's a great series, and if you haven't checked it out because you're a little bit afraid of it, get past that first episode, which is very anguishing. It's some of the most visceral things I've seen in a while. But after you get past that and you get onto the rest of the story, which the first episode is great, it's really rewarding. And I really like that this was on Prime Video. So if you want to sample it, you can check it out on Prime. But I am glad that this finally made it to Blu-ray. The only thing is I wish it would have made it to 4K, but I can understand that maybe a lot of people may have not been willing to purchase this on 4K. But it looks really good on Blu-ray, and I would say it's better than the 4K stream, I believe, that was on Prime. I believe they had that in 4K, but I know either way, it is better than what I saw on Prime because I got a lot of compression artifacts and banding on the stream, which I did not get on this one. It's a really clear picture. This is only a couple years old, so you expect it to have a nice, beautiful picture, but it does on Blu-ray. You don't have a lot of compression artifacts. 10 episodes over 4 discs, and some of these episodes are on the shorter side. Most of them are about an hour long, but some are a little bit shorter for narrative reasons. And they kind of fit those in where they need to have two discs with 3 episodes on it. Everything else has 2 episodes, and it has plenty of room to breathe, including some special features, which includes a audio commentary from Barry Jenkins on every single episode. The interesting thing about this one is he did not record them in sequential order. He recorded the audio commentary tracks in the order that the episodes were produced. So there is a actual viewing order that he suggests listening to the audio commentaries on. So he kind of lists those out. And I will list all of this on my written review for geekvibesnation.com. But you get all these audio commentary tracks, which are really great. Mostly it's just Barry Jenkins, but he also does get visited by his cinematographer and editor a couple of times. You get a piece talking about his introducing the audio commentary tracks. You get an assortment of deleted scenes that runs about 30 minutes. You get some teasers that aren't the traditional teaser trailers. These are specifically made for this show from unused footage that was purposefully made by Barry Jenkins, and they're their own little works of art as well, which is very cool. And then you also have a short film that runs about 50-ish minutes. Also additional material that was not used for the show. It's mostly wordless, but it's kind of living portraits of different characters and people we did not meet in the show. Just black faces in living portraits. And it's about 50 minutes long. Beautiful music from Britell. Really great. There's also, in addition to being on Blu-ray, it has the Dolby Atmos audio track, which is very immersive. It sounds really great. I'm really glad that this got the Atmos treatment. And it's just a really dynamic experience overall. So the Underground Railroad from the Criterion Collection is a home run. And it is very much worth checking out. Like I said, if you were scared of it, don't be. It's a really rewarding limited series. And it's definitely one that I'm glad is going to be on physical media because it's something I think a lot of people are going to want to own for years to come. My next title is another one of my absolute favorite labels, and that is the newest from Deaf Crocodile, and this is Ruslan and Ludmila. This is a Russian film from Alexander Tushko. If I'm saying that wrong, my apologies. So this is the final film from that acclaimed Russian director. Got a nice booklet in here that kind of goes into a lot of how this this film kind of culminates his legacy and all of the things he would usually do. Which I will preface this by saying that Deaf Crocodile has released 3 other Tushko movies on Blu-ray previously. I have not had a chance to pick those up, but I just pledged on their Kickstarter a couple months ago for this really epic box set that I'm really excited to get in, which has all the movies, including this one, so I'll have an extra copy. And with like really nice slipcovers and a custom-made box. So I'm really excited, especially after watching this one, to get in some of those older, into some of those older movies that I haven't picked up yet, because I really, really like this one. It's a really strange. It's based on a Russian poem from the 1820s that's been adapted by Tushko, and it's kind of like an epic quest that has like a little bit of history, but also like some like folklore elements and magical stuff. So the basis is you have a prince who has earned the right to marry this princess. They're from like kind of not warring factions, but opposite factions. These 2 Russian factions their families are being joined by this marriage. But on the wedding night, the bride gets whisked away by magical means from their bedroom, and it leads to this like epic quest to retrieve her. But then there's also these these 3 men who did not earn the chance to marry this woman, who are maybe potentially getting a second chance to win her affections and stuff. So it's like these 4 men all going on epic quests to varying degrees to find this woman, and you kind of find out about like this witch who had her abducted, and there's a man with a magical beard. I just love, there's like this man whose powers lies in his really, really long beard, and he can fly, and there's like talking like beheaded like stone gods, like faces of stone gods in like landscapes, and stone men who are soldiers, and all kinds of weird stuff within this. It's like a weird fairy tale that's really fun, but also weaves in some like commentary on kind of Russian politics that admittedly goes a little bit over my head at times, but through reading about on the booklet, I get a little bit more from it, and just kind of getting a little bit more from these special features. I think these are definitely films that can, like, as you explore them deeper, you can enjoy them on a surface level, but also enjoy them like the more you dig into them on like a socio-political level. But this is like 2.5 hours long, and I was never bored. It's just it's like a more serious Terry Gilliam movie, but there's a lot of like farcical stuff going on. It's really funny as well. So highly recommend that if you kind of like weird quest movies. This one is definitely a good one. And it's Deaf Crocodile, so you can expect quality across the board. This has been given a new 4K restoration from the original camera negative. It is pristine. They do quality work. So it's a beautiful restoration, and it's been encoded by Fidelity in Motion. And for those who care about that kind of thing, if you know, you know, it's a great sign that they encoded this. And this also has an audio commentary track and a 17-minute visual essay. And the booklet that I showed off as well. So, Deaf Crocodile, they are simply one of the best. And like, I love other, like, I won't name names, but I love other labels that I'm talking about this week. But I think Deaf Crocodile is one of the best labels to come out of recent years. They always give the utmost respect to their products, and they are, now that they have separated from OCN distribution, they are really getting into some like bigger and better things. They're going to have more epic box sets on the way. So if you want to get in on that, make sure to check out Diabolic DVD. They have some subscriptions and stuff, so you don't miss out on any. There's a couple different configurations that I know about, but if you want anything and everything that Deaf Crocodile is putting out, which you should, because everything I've watched has like been some of my favorite stuff I've watched recently. Check out Diabolic and like look out for Deaf Crocodile's releases, because there's a lot of good stuff coming. So Ruslan and Ludmila, it's a really good release if you're interested in checking out more Russian cinema. Usually Deaf Crocodile is the one that delves into animation, but I'm going into animation from a couple other studios for a few titles. My first one, it's more mainstream. It's from Cartoon Network. This is the Warner Brothers release of Dexter's Laboratory on DVD. This is one that I had purchased way back in the 2000s when the first season hit DVD, and then no others did. So I've just been holding on to that first season DVD for years, but now we finally get all 6 seasons. They say it's 6 seasons, but it only ran for 4, but I think the way the seasons were billed at one time, they just kind of classified them as 6 seasons, but you get the whole run with an asterisk, but I'll talk about that in a second. So here's the episode guide. So you get all these episodes, and I know you probably won't be able to discern all of this, but what I can tell you is, first, the show itself, it's very simple. It's about a boy genius who's like a 3rd grader who's like brilliant, always making inventions and stuff, but whenever he tends to make something, his sister Dee Dee, who's kind of like a tall, blonde, like bubbly extrovert, ends up kind of coming in and finding ways to wreck shit, not always on purpose, but she just has a way of getting things. And he also has a rival that he gets into different kerfuffles with. And then there's also, this is broken into segments, and you also have different other non-Dexter related, like there's a superhero team up ongoing recurring bit, and then there's one like with a super genius monkey and all this kinds of stuff. So Dexter's Laboratory is very funny. It's one I used to watch all the time growing up, and people will probably say, rightly so, that the first run of the show, which I think classified this as like the first 4 seasons, the earlier run of the show by the creator Gennady Tartakovsky, who would go on to make Primal and Samurai Jack. He is one of the best in the business, and that was when the show was in its prime. And the last couple seasons that were made, someone else took over, and it didn't really have the same magic. I think everyone kind of agrees that the series should have ended at Ego Trip, but I don't begrudge the remaining episodes. I think there's some gems in there, even if it's not as consistent as the earlier work. But you got every episode, like I said, with an asterisk. There are a couple episodes that 2 episodes that have not been released previously on physical media, and as far as I can tell, I haven't had a chance to watch all like 74 episodes, I believe, 78 episodes, but from what I can tell from looking over the episode guide several times, this still doesn't include 2 episodes, one of which was removed that had kind of a Silver Surfer-esque character that people kind of also theorized that it may have been removed for like being kind of like maybe offensive to like the LGBTQ community. I haven't seen this, so I'm not sure. And then there's another episode that was just simply, I think, a little bit too adult humor oriented. I think it's called, it has rude in the title, like Rude Business or something. But it has been shown, I know, on YouTube. I think at least at one time it was uploaded to YouTube by the Cartoon Network account. But that, as far as I can tell, that is also not included. But this does have the special Ego Trip included. So not quite complete, but as close I think as we're going to get for now. I hope we get a Blu-ray at some point and get those episodes included. If that came from the Warner Archive, I think that might happen, because they kind of are more comfortable releasing things for adult audiences and not afraid of certain backlashes for children friendly content. Not that these are like outrageous, but either way, I'm glad to have almost all the series in one package finally on physical media. Just but unfortunately it doesn't have any special features, but as far as DVD is concerned, it looks pretty good. It's passable for DVD quality. I wish it was Blu-ray, but I'm glad just to own it. So if you've also been wanting it, it's a pretty good release, all things considered. Just certain things keeping it from being like a complete home run. But if anyone was afraid of adult humor for that title, they would definitely be afraid of this title. This is Paramount's release of South Park Bigger, Longer, and Uncut on 4K Ultra HD. This is the feature-length South Park film. I just talked about one of their recent specials last week, but this was the, I believe, 1998 film. And this is one that I had not watched in a long time, but I think it was very novel at the time because now South Park just lets the swearing go wild. At this time, I don't think they were really letting at least a lot of the F-bombs fly, but this is where it really perked up, and this plot revolves around the kids going to see their favorite cartoons, the Terrence and Phillip movie, and it's just R-rated to the max, and it kind of unleashes this whole tirade or the campaign by the parents who, whenever the kids start using all this filthy language around them, they start to blame Canada, because that's where Terrence and Phillip is from. So it ignites this war with Canada, and it's way over the top. You have Satan and Saddam Hussein and all kinds of stuff. You have and it's a musical, so you have like one of the earliest songs is Uncle Fucker, and you also have Kyle's Mama's a Bitch, Blame Canada. It's just a really crude, fun time. I had a lot of fun. Like, there's a lot of stuff that it's very offensive these days, but like, it's South Park, so what are you gonna do? It's the same feeling I had whenever I rewatched Team America, which is also getting a 4K the same day as this. I haven't had a chance to check that one out, but I'll have a review on the site soon. But still a fun movie, and I'm glad it got the 4K upgrade. From what I've read, I don't think maybe all of the original content may have been stored correctly or something, because this 4K, it looks good, but it doesn't look like amazing. It's I think a solid upgrade from the old Blu-ray for sure, but if you want like a popping off the screen quality, I don't think you'll get that here, but it still looks really good for what the film. It's a very like, if you've seen this animation for South Park, it's very kind of crudely like mixed together and stuff, and I noticed at least a few kind of, I think, digital effects, especially in some of the crowd shots, where like you can tell that there's some limitations to like how they were replicating certain crowds, but it definitely is an improvement over the old Blu-ray. It's in Dolby Vision, so colors look nice. It's just not like wow, but same Dolby True HD 5.1 as previous, and you get a sing-along version on Blu-ray, and not really too much in the way of special features outside of a commentary from Matt Stone and Trey Parker, and a music video for What Would Brian Boitano Do. I think it's a good upgrade. It's just like, I think you need to keep your expectations in check with what this source is capable of. But yeah, definitely check it out if you're a fan of South Park. The comedy still holds up for sure. Straddling the line between adult animation and children's. This is another DVD release. It's from MVD and Home Entertainment. This is Witches Night Out, which is a weird 70s animated gem, which I first saw, I believe, back in like 2019. And I was really excited. Someone alerted me to the fact that this was on DVD, and I was like, okay, gotta cop that. This is a really cool release. So this is just it's a cartoon short, like in the vein of like Peanuts and stuff, but just a little bit more adult oriented, because it's like weird 70s animation where forms like are not completely like the artwork is a little bit more malleable and pulsating and stuff, but it's about a witch who, it's like Halloween night, and like there's about to be some mischief going off, and she loses her wand, and some kids, they want to be changed into some actual monsters, and it sparks like this whole uproar in the town whenever the kids can't be changed back, and like witches are persecuted, and like dynamics are kind of tested where like the witch actually wants to be a good person, and nicely the good, she wants to be kind of a bad girl, so it's a whole thing. There's also another short called The Gift of Winter on here, which it's set in winter, and it kind of also involves like some personified trees, and they kind of like get into like a whole situation with the town, and it's both of these are just like weird 70s gems that are very much worth checking out. And this DVD, I was shocked at how good this DVD looks, because it is a DVD, and I do still hope that this gets a Blu-ray release in the future, but I think this has to do well enough to kind of justify that. But if you would have told me like gun to my head, I was just looking at it blindly, not knowing it was DVD, I would have been like, okay, I think that's probably a Blu-ray quality for Witch's Night Out. The Gift of Winter, it has a little bit more age and wear and tear to it, but Witch's Night Out, it looks fantastic. Really bold colors. There's still some specks of like debris here and there, but it seems like it's had a restoration job at some point in the recent past, because it looks really nice. Dolby 2.0 audio, so no lossless audio, but it is DVD, so it's kind of what you expect. And there are a couple special features. There are a couple of featurettes, including some interviews with the original animators. Also, like one of the original animators showing off some like concept art and stuff. So there's some good interviews here, and just these specials are fun. So it's worth checking out if you have like a nostalgia like for this, or if you haven't seen it and you just like weird 70s animation. Check it out. My next one is a doozy, and it's perfect for Pride Month. This is from Altered Innocence. This is Francois Ozon's transgressive triple feature. These are the first three features from the acclaimed French filmmaker Francois Ozon on 2 discs. And the first disc has Sitcom and Criminal Lovers. Those both run about an hour and a half, so it's not really overstuffing the disc, and there's no special features on that one. The second disc has Water Drops on Burning Rocks. And here is the picture underneath. This is from Criminal Lovers. So let me finish showing off this. You get a double-sided, you get a poster on one side and a fold-out essay on the other. So on one side you have, once again, from Criminal Lovers, and then you also have, on the other side, have a really good essay on this. So not the most handy way to read the essay, but it's a good essay. I'll just start. Sitcom, I'll try to go through these pretty quickly. Sitcom is like if you had like a John Waters film through the lens of Buñuel or a Todd Solondz. It's like really taking apart like the kind of myth of like the typical American family. It's about a family who a father brings a rat home one day as like a pet, and it kind of sets off this chain of events where anyone who kind of comes into the contact with this rat really starts to have like a real change in their personality. It starts with like the son of this family like coming out as gay at a family dinner, and it kind of like spirals out into ways you will not imagine, but they're including like a suicide attempt, and I don't even want to like ruin the surprise of certain things, but this went in directions that I could have never guessed. But a lot of sexual taboos being broken, I will just say that. this is just about like the unraveling of a family, and there's just like a lot of different characters, and I didn't even like talk about how this film starts, which was with a well, I won't spoil it, but it is insane. It's violent. It's very queer. There's a lot of like orgies and stuff going on. It's wild as hell, but I really liked it. It's like really, really dark, but I just could not believe what I was seeing. But sitcom is one of those movies you really have to watch it to believe it. But it's a delight. But it's, if you are easily offended, do not watch this movie, because you will not like it. Criminal Lovers, it's a little bit more palatable to like a more mainstream audience. Still some things going on here, but it's like kind of a Bonnie and Clyde meets Hansel and Gretel. It's about a couple who, the girl kind of convinces her boyfriend to kill this student at their school, and you kind of learn more about this as the movie goes along. But whenever they go to dispose of his body in the woods, they end up getting lost, and they end up getting kidnapped by this kind of like hulking man in the woods who takes them captive and holds them prisoner. But he starts to form like this really interesting fucked up dynamic with the young man, and it kind of like turns into like a not quite kind of a sex slave-ish situation, while his girlfriend is still locked in the basement. And there's just like a real like kind of like sexual awakening aspect of this. I will say there's a reason they call these transgressive triple features. It's a really wild tale. But the final film is Water Drops on Burning Rocks. This is once again a tale of sexual awakening of sorts, where at the beginning of the film, you see this young, who we presume even himself to believe, a heterosexual man being picked up by this older gentleman, and he gets him back into his apartment. It's a very talky scene, and it ends up with them becoming lovers, and he like dumps the girlfriend that he's planning on proposing to soon, and all this kind of stuff unravels. But then you start to see their relationship, like kind of jumps forward in time to see how they are as a couple, like in a relationship where that relationship is starting to sour. And it kind of unfurls from there, where there's like a lot of different like dynamics between like this older man, this younger lover, his ex-girlfriend, and whenever they kind of all intermingle. And then there's like a trans woman from the older man's past that also comes in the picture. So it's like kind of this like weird sexual slurry of like bodies and dynamics and people, like it's like really toxic relationships, but also sexual exploration. It's very interesting. I liked all of these movies quite a bit. And just like this, like one right after another, interesting films from Ozon and his like really early career. Really interesting. This is like what has been described as new French extremism. And I can really understand that, because it's really, if you're easily shocked, there's a lot of stuff in here that will shock you, but it's very interesting. And you even get an audio commentary on Water Drops on Burning Rocks, and you also get a visual essay from Kat Ellinger. It runs about 17 minutes long, which kind of gets into, it's a 26-minute visual essay that gets into kind of Ozon's career and into the new French extremism. And then you also get a 13-minute interview from one of the actors from sitcom as well. So those are both on the last disc. So if you are a fan of Ozon, definitely check this out. If there's actually a slipcover version of this, which I talked about Diabolic earlier in the episode with the Deaf Crocodile release. You can also get that at Diabolic, a slipcover version or the standard version as well. Definitely check it out. And happy Pride. So yeah, it's really interesting viewing for anyone, but it's a really, really great set. My next film is not new. It actually came out quite a while ago, but I wanted to watch it, so I wanted to talk about it. This is from Kimstem, and this is Jeannette, The Childhood of Joan of Arc, from Bruno Dumont. I believe this was released on Blu-ray in 2018, so it's been out quite a while. Some of you may have it, but I think it is one that kind of, especially from being such a small label as Kimstem, I think it probably would have went overlooked by a lot of people. But This is a metal musical version of the early years of Joan of Arc. So it's a musical set to it's like in the style of metal, of this young girl who is like having this calling of faith, who is like wanting to like appeal to God and rock out for God, to kind of help her fellow man, and just like how this will eventually lead to like the Joan of Arc as you know it. And overall, I think this is a really interesting movie. I don't think it really needed to be quite as long as it is. It's like an hour and 55 minutes. And there are some songs that I started to my attention started to wane a little bit. But overall, I think it's like a really ambitious movie. I think it's really interesting a lot of the times. And like the way this little lady rocks out for the Lord, I really appreciate it. Whenever there's a time jump and she grew up a little bit, I also started to lose interest a little bit, but it won me back. And overall, it ended on a strong note. I just think it could have been tightened up a little bit and really didn't need to be almost 2 hours. But overall, like it. I recommend it. It's a good HD transfer. It's a more recent movie. Like, I believe it was released in 2017. Looks really great. DTS 5.1 audio. You get some deleted scenes, an interview with Bruno Dumont that runs about 16 minutes. And overall, and a theatrical trailer. So Jeannette, the childhood Joan of Arc. If you are interested in continuing your French cinema journey from Ozon, consider this weird ass musical that I'm sure a lot of people have not seen. All right, I am heading down a stretch of Sony titles that I am excited to talk about to various degrees, but there's some really, really good ones. And the first one is The Burglars with Jean-Paul Belmondo and Omar Sharif. You have actually two versions of this movie. You have the international version and the US version. I primarily watched the international version. I checked out a little bit of the US version, and I'll kind of talk about my experiences with that. But this movie is really, really great. It's a heist movie, a caper movie, but it's more so the first opening like 15 or 20 minutes is the heist, and then the rest is kind of the fallout from the heist. And Jean-Paul Belmondo and his crew, that like he is effortlessly cool, and what I really like about him is he like performs all of his own stunts according to what I've read and like what is talked about. And it is insane. There is a 10-minute, and that might not sound a lot, but this is like a 10-minute car chase that is one of the best car chases I've ever seen filmed. Because like a lot of times these days you get car chases that are like really cut and like really quickly and stuff, but this is just like a chaotic pure 10-minute drive through, I believe, France, where the way that these real cars are like speeding down these roads to like various death-defying degrees, and like the stunts that they pull off with like no extreme cutting is insane. I have to recommend this for the car chase alone. But then there's also really cool stunts elsewhere where like Jean-Paul Belmondo is hanging off a bus, and it is really him like hanging off buses. It is wild. And that's like a foot chase scene that happens as well. And then there's also just a lot of cool like cat and mouse, like a crooked detective hunting down like this like thief and stuff and his team. I love this movie. It's really good, and I'm really glad I got to check it out on Blu-ray. I said there's two versions of the movie, and the international version is pretty significantly longer. And it's a really great version of the movie. Definitely check that one out. This is the version that seems to be like pristinely restored. It looks great, vibrant colors, really crisp image, just a really beautiful picture all around, and the original French audio. The US version is dubbed in English, shorter, and it also like it looks clear, but the color is way off. The international version, like whenever you look at the credits, they're like a crimson red, And then whenever you look at the US version, it's like a burnt orange. It's just like, and the whole movie looks really desaturated on the US version, and it looks very, very strange. So the important version, the international version, has been seemingly taken care of, and it looks pristine to my eyes. The US version, if that's the one you want to watch, I think you will be very disappointed. And I have not gotten confirmation. There has been a overseas release of this movie a few years ago. I have not gotten confirmation if those transfers that include the international and US version are similar quality, or if they are opposite, like pretty total opposites, like this Sony version. But I know on that release there are special features. There are no special features on this. There are just the two different versions of the film. So if you import, maybe check that one out. But if not, the international version looks awesome. So I think this is still a good release. You just might be disappointed about no special features and that the US version does not look the best. But definitely check it out. It's a great movie. My next title is an Oscar-winning movie from I think the 70s or 60s. This is Cat Ballou with Jane Fonda and Lee Marvin, Michael Callahan, Dwayne Hickman, Nat King Cole, and Stubby Kaye. Nat King Cole and Stubby Kaye, they kind of function as like a chorus where they're kind of like narrating the film as it goes along with some really catchy songs. So this is like a Western parody before Blazing Saddles came along, and it actually earned Lee Marvin an Oscar. Jane Fonda, she stars as the titular Cat Ballou, and she is like, her dad owns a farm, and there's like some people wanting to come take it from him, and it ends up turning in this tale of like her having to hire like these outlaws for protection, and just like how this kind of unfolds in this like epic grand scale, but also while kind of taking a tongue-in-cheek approach to it, especially like Lee Marvin's character, where he can only like he's like a chronic drunk, and he can only really function whenever he has a little bit of alcohol in him to like keep him even. But if he can get too drunk, he is also not functional. And it's a really wild movie. It's really fun. I really enjoyed it quite a bit. Jane Fonda is great in the movie. And it's just like, it's a buoyant tone. Like I said, it's a pseudo musical with like this like kind of Greek chorus of Nat King Cole and Stubby Kaye. And yeah, it's just a really great Western, and it's a really great Blu-ray. I'm pretty sure this was released by Twilight Time previously, which is now out of business, and thus that it was out of print. So this has been returned to Blu-ray. So I don't know how this compares to the old Blu-ray, but this looks fantastic. I think it's a very natural looking presentation. It's so good that I wish I kind of would have upgraded it to a 4K release. I think that would have been fantastic. But for those who are just wanting this back in circulation, I think you will be very pleased. It has DTS 5.1 and 2.0 audio, so you have the original audio or more immersive experience. 2 commentary tracks, one from some cast members and one from some film historians, and then a 13-minute featurette on Cat Ballou, and then a trailer. So, great release from Sony. Really fun film. If you like a different take on a Western, check it out. I'll probably get a little bit of shit for this next movie and saying that it's a fun time, because I think objectively it's not like a great movie, but I have a nostalgia for it. That is Sony's release of Beverly Hills Ninja with Chris Farley. So yes, this, I do not like that it so heavily leans on like fat guy falling down as like humor. But there is a lot of funny things in this movie that I am really amused by. Chris Farley plays a character, a grown-up character, kind of similar is like in style to Elf, where he is like an orphan baby brought up in Japan, and he is brought up to be kind of train with other ninjas in training, and he thinks that he might be the prophesized like great white ninja who might come and like save everyone and everything. But in reality, he's just kind of more of like a bumbling idiot who eventually has to come into his own whenever he gets kind of tricked into into this plot by this like blonde American woman, and he goes to Beverly Hills to track her down and save her, even though he's not sure. Like, everyone else thinks she's not really worth saving and probably playing him for some like nefarious means, and it kind of gets him all mixed into this criminal element. But basically it's Chris Farley as a ninja, like, and if that appeals to you, it's a fun time. But it's really stupid, but there's a lot of good physical humor, and some witty dialogue at times, but mostly it's a lot of like Farley being committed to the bit. And Chris Rock is pretty good as well in his like limited role. He's being taught by Chris Farley to like his ninja skills. But you know, I think if you have a nostalgia for this, I think you know that you've probably been wanting this, and it looks good on Blu-ray, but it's not for everyone. It's a really stupid movie, but it's a stupid I kind of like. In terms of audio, it sounds great as well. DTS 5.1 audio. And like I said, it does look really good. I think it's probably had some kind of fresh scan in recent years, because it looks really nice, clear, detailed. If you've been waiting, it doesn't reuse the old DVD master. It looks really nice. And you do get a commentary from director Dennis Dugan and a trailer. So I'm glad it's on Blu-ray. I think it deserves it. And speaking of deserves to be on Blu-ray, this is one that I had not heard of, but now that I know about it, I can't believe it wasn't on Blu-ray sooner. This is Shotgun Stories. This is from director Jeff Nichols, who has the upcoming film The Bike Riders with Austin Butler soon. He also did stuff like Mud and Take Shelter. A lot of great movies. This was his debut from the 2000s era. And this has his old buddy Michael Shannon, who's in a lot of his movies. So this is a tale. It's a kind of like a low rent, like rural town, and it's like involves a trio of brothers whose father had like kind of like was abusive and like an alcoholic and had left them whenever they were children, and who has now just recently passed away. But after he had left their family, he had started a new family. So whenever they learn that he has passed away, these three brothers go, and Michael Shannon go to the funeral and starts saying like how their dad was just an awful person, and it really rubs the other family the wrong way, and it just kind of kicks off, it lights a match for this fuse of like these family tensions that have been brewing. But it all links back to this toxic dude who has just kind of doomed both of their families to kind of taking out one another. And just like this has been fostered by just a lot of just like unneeded hatred and stuff. And I won't spoil how this kind of goes about, but it's really good. It's a really good tale of just like how like hate can like just infect the heart and really just like leads down a really bad road. And I really like Michael Shannon in this. The dynamic he has with the guys who play his brothers, that you can really feel that, and just like this need for revenge that all of them have. It's just so heart-wrenching, but it's so good. Jeff Nichols directs this to perfection. Super good movie. And this Blu-ray looks really good. I'm glad it was treated well after all this time. This is like a Sony Pictures classic movie, and it's been retained very well. Has a commentary from director Jeff Nichols, an interview with him that runs about 13 minutes. And then you also have a 5.1 and 2.0 audio, and like a photo album, like a stills gallery type thing. So Shotgun Stories, definitely check it out if you like kind of like really good indie cinema, like from that 2000s era, that sweet spot. Oof, it's so good. My next release, it also involves kind of small town life, but I did not like it as much, or really at all. This is the first miss that I have from Film Masters for the Backwoods double feature of Common Law Wife and Jennie Wife/Child. This is from what they call the Hicksploitation genre, which honestly, I'm sure they're great. They're great at what they do, but anytime something weird is involved, it's just not for me. I should just know. I should have saw that it was on this and just avoided it. But two films, 2 discs, and a nice booklet. It's a good presentation for those who do like these movies. But Common Law Wife involves a man who's kind of tired of his girlfriend and decides to dump her. He's an older gentleman. He decides to dump her for a new, younger woman who actually happens to be his niece. But what he doesn't know, he's been with his current girlfriend so long, they are technically common law married, and she's not going to give him up without a fight. And this is a wild movie. There's a lot of narrative oddities to it. The girl who plays the niece is like replaced by there's different actresses playing her at different points. This movie was shot as something else, but it was also acquired by someone, and there's additional footage shot to make it common law marriage. And the footage, I'll talk about this in a little bit, is like there's different quality of footage, and some of it looks pretty rough and some of it looks pretty good. But the movie itself, not for me. Jennie, wife / child, is not as grody as Common Law Wife, despite labeling that title. But Jennie is like the young wife of this older farmer. She kind of wants to like mess around with some of the workers on the farm and stuff, and it kind of like sets off this trail of jealousy and everything. And Hicksploitation, just not my bag. It's just, I'm not for it. But these have been both newly restored from original film elements. What that actually means, I'm not exactly sure. But they are 35 millimeter transfers. So Common Law Wife is a mixed bag. Like I said, some of it looks good, but some of the non-original footage looks pretty bad. Jennie, wife / child, looks pretty consistent overall. These are both older films that are not pristine. There's a lot of nicks and scratches, but I think they're about as good as they can look. You get a commentary track, 2 commentary tracks on Common Law Wife, and one commentary track on Jennie, wife / child. And then a 51-minute documentary on Hicksploitation, which was more entertaining to me. I like learning about Hicksploitation more than watching it, so I like that documentary probably best of anything I watched on this set. But it's a documentary worth checking out for sure. So it's a good presentation of some films that I will never watch again. So do with that as you will. But my final set, it is also an exploitation endeavor, but to much better results, kind of. It's an epic set from Severin that is the Game of Clones Bruceploitation collection, Volume 1. So that's promising that maybe we'll get a Volume 2 at some point. But this is fascinating. And to acclimate you to the set, first I'll kind of show, this is a really beautiful set. You get a gorgeous bound book here that gives you so much information about these movies. Like, it's invaluable. And great book. And inside you have a nice collection here. So to start you off, you have a brand new documentary that was released in the last year or so called Enter the Clones of Bruce, which this whole subgenre of film is an exploitation genre of once Bruce Lee died, it left a void because he was just getting into the popularity of like mainstream culture. This left a vacuum where people really, really wanted Bruce Lee films, but he was dead. So he had a limited number of films, but there's still money to be made. So they decided to get people who kind of looked like Bruce and could imitate him to an effect to make new movies and name them kind of variations of Bruce Lee. So there's Bruce Lee, Lei, Bruce Lee, L-E. There's a couple, and then there's like Dragon Lee. There's all kinds of different people, and this documentary kind of gives you like a full like overview of this. It's a really great documentary. Even if you're not interested in the films themselves, this documentary is offered separately, and it just really gives a nice overview of this subgenre and just like great interviews with like people, like the people who embodied these characters and stuff, and like people who worked for the studios and all this stuff. It's great, and like film historians. But if you really want to go down that road after you watch the documentary, you got so many films here. So there are 15 films in this set. One of the films is the documentary. Everything else, there's 14. There's also a version with only 12 instead of 14 films, which I'll talk about in a second. So you have The Clones of Bruce Lee and Enter Three Dragons. You get Enter the Game of Death and Goodbye Bruce Lee, His Last Game of Death. A lot of these are predicated on you trying to trick the audience into thinking you're watching something else. You get The Dragon Lives Again and Bruce and the Iron Finger. You get Challenge of the Tiger and Cameroon Connection. You get Super Dragon, The Bruce Lee Story, and The Dragon Lives, and The Dragon, the Hero, and Rage of the Dragon. What else we got here? So that's in the standard set, everything I just showed you. If you want to get the deluxe set, there is a 8th disc on the back here, which it's not the best packaging situation, but you get a paper slip here, and I will gingerly take that out. So you get 2 much desired films. So you get The Big Boss 2, and you also get The Black Dragon versus the Yellow Tiger. So that's on this 8th disc. That's exclusively in the deluxe edition. So if you're a big fan of this subgenre, those are 2 the holy grail of titles, and you'll want to get that. But this is a great set regardless. There are literally 14 non-documentary films in here, so I'm not going to go into every one of them, but just overall, some I wouldn't say any of them are masterpieces, and a lot of them are bad, but even the bad ones are fun, and just a lot of times plots do not make sense. There's a lot of like stitched together quality, and just like the filmmaking is a little bit shoddy, because a lot of things, they were just churning these out and they just wanted to make a profit. But there's something interesting about each and every single one of them that's just like, there's something in there that's worth watching. There's like, I hate to call it a guilty pleasure quality, but like there's always really great action, because as much as they wanted to be capitalizing on Bruce Lee's like untimely demise, they got people who could really fight, and like fight really well. And there's some amazing action sequences. It's just the plots are sometimes a little bit off. And I should also mention, these are all just the English dubs of these, so there's no original audio of these. So you also have that additional cheesy quality of like all the voices are a little bit off and weird and just like uncanny. But I think that's how a lot of these movies were first experienced. So I think some audiences will be forgiving of that. And a lot of these are just so hard to find, and a lot of these also are not in great quality, but they are as good of a quality as you can. You get a lot of prints with like print damage and like discoloration and stuff, but I think all of these films are as good looking as they can. This has been literally a years-long endeavor where all the people behind this set have been like scouring the globe for the best surviving elements for these films. So you have to give them a little bit of leeway that these like are not pristine 35 like original 4K scans of the 35mm negative. They don't exist. They're doing their best, and overall they look good. And if you know you like kind of like campy like exploitation cinema, like kung fu martial arts stuff, I think you'll like this. If you are like someone who turns their nose up at like dumb cinema and stuff and kind of more trashy cinema, you're not gonna like this. This isn't the set for you. But like if you kind of love good trash, enter the Game of Clones. It's a super set. And so many special features. I kind of showed those off whenever I was turning the pages, but You get introductions from Michael Worth to every single film. He's one of the key minds behind this set, and he gives you a great context into each movie. Get multiple commentary tracks. Some are like select scenes, some are partial, and then some are full-length commentary tracks. You get a lot of interviews, featurettes, like video essays. So much in here that you'll just want to check out and love. So Severin has done a really nice job with this. It's a holy grail for a lot of people, and so definitely check it out. And I love that it's really concise packaging because I need all the shelf space I can get. So Enter the Clones, the Game of Clones Bruceploitation Collection, Volume 1. Bring on Volume 2, I say. It's awesome. So that's great. Those are all of my titles. I had a lot of fun digging into those. I hope you have found something that you are excited to dig into. If so, leave a comment. Let me know what you're interested in checking out. Or if there's something you want me to cover on a future episode, leave a comment as well. Share this with someone that you think would like one of these releases. I appreciate any likes and comments and shares. Subscribe to the Geek Vibes Nation YouTube channel because I do these every week. I'm so grateful for your support. I'm very, very happy that you've continued to come back. I am excited to do this next week. I have another good slate for you next week. But until next time, enjoy these movies.
Kid. Oh, kid, what a time for you to fall off the wagon. Look at your eyes.
What's wrong with my eyes?
Well, they're red. Bloodshot.
You ought to see them from my side.
We're counting on you, kid.